In the frozen expanse of the Arctic, where life clings to the edge of harsh survival, there lurks a disturbing wound, a grotesque hive erupting from the back of a majestic polar bear. This is no image of pristine wilderness. It is a visceral glimpse into a nightmare where nature itself becomes the battleground for invasion and decay. The creature, mighty and solitary, now bears a twisted crown of waxen cells, swollen and oozing, festering with the relentless buzzing of an unwelcome colony. Beneath the pristine white fur, the hive expands, a morbid testament to a symbiotic terror where the bear's flesh is not just territory, but prey. This bizarre infestation stems from an extraordinary breach of ecological boundaries. The hive, composed of countless bees, some subterranean parasites, thrives by burrowing into wounds or weakened skin. The bear, injured perhaps by a frostbitten claw or a desperate skirmish with rival life, unknowingly invited this hive to form a grotesque fortress. The bees, drawn by injured tissue, and the warmth emanating from beneath the bear's thick coat, unleash a cycle of infection. They construct combs, filling the wound like dark honeycombs of pain, their waxy structure tinged yellow with pus and blood. The smell is rank, sweetly sour with decay, an invisible scream against the vast icy silence. Unlike the orderly hives that fill the trees of warmer lands, this polar bear's hive is a malignant intrusion. The insects swarm in chaotic abandon, far from their usual floral sanctuaries. Their stingers in the shadowy recesses of the forest, where life thrives in cruel and unexpected ways, a haunting spectacle unfolds. A tiger, majestic in its fierceness, now bears a grotesque testament to nature's relentless indifference. Its once sleek and vibrant coat is marred by a horrid hive of bees, clinging to raw, oozing wounds that ripple with the sickness of infestation. The monstrous sprawl of this beehive is a festering scar of nature's darker symbiosis, where predator becomes victim and scars become breeding grounds. This isn't an ordinary bee problem. Imagine thousands of tiny buzzing insects, each armed with a sting, having colonized the tiger's flesh. The hive is swollen, dripping with honey mixed with blood and pus, a sticky custard of decay. The bees have found sanctuary in the tiger's injured skin, weaving their hexagonal prisons directly into flesh that should have repelled such invasive life. Their relentless work carves tunnels and chambers beneath the surface, embedding combs that crackle and spurt with an unholy mixture of sweetness and rot. The tiger's growl is now a harsh rasp, a symphony of pain masked by the steady hum of an insect army enacting a parasitic siege. This twisted alliance, or infestation, is both fascinating and appalling. Bee infestations on mammals are rare but not impossible. Predators facing trauma or injury may unwittingly become hosts for opportunistic insects. The bees, normally the architects of order, and beneath the dense canopy of the rainforest, shrouded in the relentless damp, and the whisper of unseen dangers, prowls a creature marked by nature's uncanny cruelty, a jaguar, its muscular frame marred by a ghastly wound. This is no ordinary injury. It's a festering, swollen hive, a sickening mass where thousands of bees have made a grotesque home, transforming flesh into a living, buzzing incubator. The jaguar's once sleek and regal fur is matted with pus and honey, the air around it thick, with the incessant drone of bees swarming like a dark cloud of torment. To witness this is to confront a brutal juxtaposition, the fierce predator rendered vulnerable by a microscopic enemy. The invasion began innocuously, a curious sniff here, a careless paw swipe there, disturbing a hidden hive nestled within the hollow of a long-dead tree. But instead of retreating, these bees, in their relentless pursuit of survival, latched onto the jaguar's flesh, secreting venom and depositing larvae into the open wound. Over days, the wound ballooned, converting into a living beehive, an unnatural sight where insect and mammal horrors entwine. Infestation by bees on a jaguar is not merely a curious oddity. It's a chilling demonstration of how ecosystems, though balanced, can twist into grotesque punishing mechanisms when life and death entwine in grotesque intimacy. The bees brought with them a cocktail of irritation and infection. Their stings inject venom that triggers pain and swelling beyond the jaguar's natural liminal abilities to heal. The jaguar, despite its muscle and might, now spends much of its time limping, driven mad by relentless stinging. The hive thrives, expanding as more bees are. In the sweeping plains where wild herds once roamed untamed, a singular sight arrests the gaze, a towering bison marred by a nightmarish affliction far from any natural grace. Embedded deep into the flesh of this colossal beast is a grotesque wasp nest, a pulsating colony of stinging torment that tattoos the creature's body in macabre detail. This abhorrent wound is no mere injury. It is a living, breathing fortress for thousands of wasps, whose sharp pincers and venomous stings carve through skin and sinew. At first glance, it's a shocking glimpse into the brutal realities of life in the wild, a horror unfolding in slow, sickening motion beneath a thick mane of coarse fur. The nest itself is an architectural nightmare, irregular and swollen, built layer upon layer from chewed wood pulp mixed with saliva. The wasps constantly swarm around the fleshy wound, their glossy black and yellow bodies flickering like living tongues of fire. These insects have not just settled on the bison, they have invaded it, exploiting its weakened tissue for their own prosperity. The open wound drips a dark, sticky secretion that attracts more wasps and possibly other scavengers, each bite and sting injecting venom into the bison's muscles, further weakening the creature's resistance. The smell is a rank mixture of rot, sweat, and venom, an olfactory assault that seems to embody nature's cruel indifference. This parasitic bond paints a dark picture of survival and decay, a testament to the forces that govern life and death in the wild. The wasp infestation is more than an irritation. It is a slow siege. Wasps, drawn to the exposed flesh, lay their eggs in the moist, vulnerable tissue. As larvae hatch, they feast internally, burrowing through in the savage theater of the African savanna, where the sun scorches the earth and life clings in a relentless struggle. An unsettling sight catches the eye: a majestic lion, king of these plains, crippled not by the usual wounds of battle but by an unnatural affliction, a grotesque, oozing hive of bees nesting in its flesh. The very emblem of power and dominance, this creature now carries a horror that seems more fitting for a nightmare than reality. This horrid, swollen mound festers where once smooth golden fur reigned, a buzzing, writhing mass that pulses with life yet threatens death. The lion's wound is a chaotic meme of flesh and wax, a hive emerging grotesquely from wounds that could be mistaken for scars, until one peers closer and witnesses the throbbing terror within. Bees, driven not by the usual nectar of flowers, but by a dark opportunism, have colonized the lion's vulnerable hide. The bright yellows and blacks of these insects contrast sickeningly against the inflamed scar tissue, creating a living monstrosity, a symbol of nature's indifferent cruelty. Each bee moves with mechanical precision, tending larvae and secreting wax, while the lion's skin festers under their occupation. It is as though the very beast of beasts has become a host, a grotesque hive queen's cradle in the unending food chain of parasite and host. Bees, typically harmless pollinators, are here turned sinister, their normal purpose perverted by circumstance. The infested lion is likely weakened by age or injury, unable to fiercely repel this creeping invasion. The bees exploit the creature's natural openings and wounds, seeping into flesh and muscle, their stings compounding the lion's pain in a vicious cycle. These bees gather around wounds that expose the lion's deep tissues, feeding on the fluids and secreting wax that traps the lion's skin in an unholy embrace. The hive expands, its sticky honey-like substances mingling with pus and blood, creating a chemical stew of decay. Within this living nightmare, the bee's own offspring hatch, feeding off the lion's infected flesh in a grisly symbiosis that spells doom unless some miracle rips the beast free. This is not the story of a bee sting lasting a day or two. This is in the frozen wastelands, where white silhouettes prowl the endless ice. A silent horror festers beneath the pristine fur of a lone polar bear. This majestic titan of the Arctic, master of its realm, bears a grotesque wound unlike any other, a festering, pulsating plague of serpentine infestation that pulsates with sickening life. Imagine the unbearable sight: writhing, slick snakes burrowing into the snowy landscape of flesh, gnawing relentlessly at the bear's raw, exposed skin. This isn't merely injury. It is an unholy marriage of predator and parasite, where suffering intertwines with survival in a macabre dance on the edge of nature's mercy. The wound is an open gateway, dark and moist, seething with slithering invaders whose anguished hiss pierces the icy winds. These snakes, bizarre enough in their inexplicable shift to such a cruel habitat, have found a grotesque sanctuary within the bear's hide. Skin once thick and insulative now throbs with infection, capturing the reek of decay amid the frozen expanse. Each serpentine intruder drills into the bear's flesh, injecting venom and bacteria, turning living tissue into a festering mire. The bear, slow and burdened by this unnatural parasite, becomes a tragic portrait of desperation, howling against the unforgiving silence of the Arctic. This snake infestation, an unnatural blight, seems born of a twisted fate rather than evolutionary design. Usually, snakes shun the Arctic's icy breath. But here, some have mutated, or perhaps been displaced by climate's cruel hand, forced into new roles as tormentors rather